going on, guys? Welcome to Titans Time. I'm your host, Tanner Staggs, and I'm back with the second episode of the Two-Tone Path to the Draft. This series is brought to you by Jacob Patterson of Coldwell Banker Southern Realty. If you have real estate needs and you're in the Southern or Middle Tennessee area, give my guy Jacob a call at 931-279-1707. He'll get your needs taken care of. All right, guys, so in this episode of the Two-Tone Path to the Draft, I'm going to be covering the wide receivers in the draft, most specifically the top three. The top three guys, not in the whole draft, but just that I feel like the Titans have a chance to get and are the best fits for them. Now, I'm not going specifically guys that they should target in the first round, second round, wherever in the draft, because honestly, it's still undecided if in the first round they should go with cornerback, wide receiver. We really don't know yet. I mean, there's a couple of different ways that they could go, but I'm going off of the top three wide receivers I feel like the Titans should be looking at really hard for this draft. Let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm going to dive right into who is my favorite receiver for the Titans to target in the draft. I mean, the absolute number one guy that I want them to come away from the draft with him on their roster, and that is Rashod Bateman from Minnesota. This guy, he's really, really talented. I mean, he's had like 19 touchdowns over his NCAA career. He's 6'2", so he's not really a small guy, but, you know, he's still got the speed. He's still got the route running. I mean, he runs smooth, crisp routes. He's honestly about the number 4 guy in my wide receiver rankings. I mean, he's below Jamar Chase. He's below Devontae Smith. He's below Jalen Waddle. Those guys are not in that order. Honestly, I don't even know what order I would put them in, but he's definitely below them. If those guys are available with their first-round pick, which is a possibility because, I mean, we saw last year some of the wide receivers in the draft, they dropped lower than what they were expected to be. If any of those 3 guys, especially Chase or Devontae Smith, those are my 2 favorites, but I just don't think the Titans will have a chance at them. If they're there, absolutely, I think that they should be grabbing those guys without any questions. But there's 3 skills that Rashod Bateman has that I want to highlight that the Titans would benefit from having these 3 skills on their roster, because it's kind of some things that at times they have struggled with in the past. Number 1, first and foremost, and 2 of these skills, they kind of go hand in hand, but no pun intended. But the first skill is his hands. I mean, this guy has really, really sure hands. I mean, I think he's probably got some of the most sure hands out of the whole entire draft as wide receivers go. I mean, the second skill is contested catchability. So that's why they kind of go hand in hand, because, I mean, he really, really has some sure hands. If a ball is coming his way, he can get his hands on it. There's a really good chance that he's going to catch it. We saw last season with A.J. Brown and with Corey Davis, they kind of struggle with that at times. So having a guy with sure hands and, you know, a guy that can go up and make a contested catch would be really, really good for the Titans. Now, don't get me wrong. They've got a guy that can go up and make those contested catches with A.J. Brown. I mean, he's a big, strong, you know, big-bodied receiver. I mean, really, he did struggle with some drops last season, just like Corey Davis did. So a guy like Rashod Bateman, he would really, really add some sure hands there on the team, a guy that they could rely on, you know, when they needed a big catch, whatever. But that's something that the Titans have been missing. And then the third skill is his route running. I think he is a really, really exceptional route runner. Some people grade him a little lower on route running, but I think he runs smooth, crisp routes. He puts a lot of attention to detail into his routes. And, you know, I think that's something that at times in the past, not necessarily this past season, but the Titans have had wide receivers that didn't really have those clean, crisp routes. And, you know, it'd be kind of refreshing to see a young guy on the roster that puts really a lot of effort into his routes. Now, the number 2 guy that I want to mention in this video is Elijah Moore. And the thing that comes to my mind when I mention him, first and foremost, is Ole Miss wide receiver. And the Tennessee Titans have had some really good luck with an Ole Miss wide receiver here over these past 2 seasons. A.J. Brown, he has been absolutely huge. I mean, in his rookie year last season, he's been a huge contributor for the Tennessee Titans. I mean, we haven't had a wide receiver that has those wide receiver 1 capabilities like him in a really, really long time. So it's really awesome to see A.J. Brown come in and be an underrated guy, you know, that comes in and can do the things that he can do. This guy coming out of Ole Miss, Elijah Moore, is a little bit underrated too. I've got 2 strengths and then pros, I guess you would call them, and then 1 con about Elijah Moore. This guy, because of his con, is probably going to fall out of the first round. I wouldn't want the Titans to spend that first round pick on him just because I feel like it would be a bad value there. I think that other teams are going to wait on him, so why wouldn't the Titans do the same thing? I think if he's there in the second round and they haven't went wide receiver in the first, he is absolutely a good choice to get right there. Even if they want to double up, which would be kind of weird in my opinion, because there are some other positions they need to fill that would be, they need that way more than 2 wide receivers early in the draft. But I think he's a guy at number 2 that you could feel good about. He might even fall, not number 2, round 2, sorry. He might even fall to round 3, which, is a little less likely, obviously. But, if you could get him there, it would be an absolute steal. So Elijah Moore, the 2 strengths, first and foremost, number 1 is his acceleration ability. I mean, this guy from a dead stop can get to his full speed in a very, very fast amount of time. I mean, it's really crazy how fast this guy can accelerate. Don't want to say Tyreek Hill because I don't think he's on that level. But as far as acceleration goes, he can get to his top speed really, really fast, which makes his route running ability really great. I mean, even better than Rashod Bateman. And, Rashod Bateman, he's not in the top of the draft. I did say that his route running skills were pretty exceptional, and they are, but he's not in the top of the draft, like Elijah Moore is. I mean, he's really high up there, in my opinion. It makes him for a really good route runner. He can get past people in man coverage on those deep routes, and, that's just one of the things that he's really, really good at. I would say that it's probably his biggest strength. The next thing that I would say about Elijah Moore is his ability to play in the slot. He is really good in the slot. I mean, especially, against man coverage, if he lines up in the slot right there, 9 times out of 10, he's going to get open if it's one-on-one. And, as we know, the Titans just lost their slot receiver this offseason. Adam Humphries, he's going to be going elsewhere. If he hasn't already signed a contract by the time this video goes up, he's probably getting very close. I mean, I don't think he's going to stay out there much longer. But they're going to have a spot to fill there at slot wide receiver. And I think that he could really, really plug in perfectly right there. And that's one of the reasons that I would be pushing to get him in the second round. I mean, I really think he would be a great pickup there. And I think he could contribute in year 1 right there in the slot position. The main con that I have about Elijah Moore is his size. He's only 5'9". And I know that doesn't tell the whole story with the wide receiver, but that is going to make a lot of teams shy away from him early on. And that's why he's going to fall to the second round, could potentially fall to the third round, some people think. But, I mean, you've got guys like Tyreek Hill. You've got guys like Deshaun Jackson that have made a really good NFL career, even though they're small, even though they're undersized. And it's because of their speed. Like I mentioned, he's got that acceleration. And, that shows on some of the film from some of his play at Ole Miss. But his size is a huge knock on him that a lot of people are going to pass on him for. That's why the Titans could probably get a steal on him in like the second or third round. The third and final guy that I'm going to mention in this video is Rondell Moore from Purdue. He is even smaller than the last guy I mentioned, Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore, 5'9". Rondell Moore is 5'7". I mean, he is even smaller. That's one of the biggest cons on him. And, you can kind of look past that when you realize how insanely athletic this guy is. I mean, the reason that I would be looking for the Titans to grab him is because he can do so many things when he has the ball in his hands. I mean, he is a guy that you can get him the ball, get him in open space, and he is a threat to take it all the way on any day, any play. If you can get him in open field, he's a threat. Now, this guy, he has got top-end speed. He's even faster, in my opinion, than Elijah Moore. And, I mean, he is just one of those guys that can absolutely break a game open just by making a big play or two here and there. I mean, the Titans kind of need that speedy guy that can just break plays open and make a big play at any time. He kind of almost would remind me on the Titans, and this is a completely different position, but he would almost kind of remind me of Chris Johnson, whereas he could take a run to the house any day, any play. If you were watching the game, you were always anticipating Chris Johnson taking one to the house and just absolutely changing the game, breaking it open, 60 yards, 70 yards. That's how I would feel if Rondell Moore was on the field for the Tennessee Titans. I would feel like on any play, Rondell Moore can catch the ball and take it all the way to the house. He might beat the man deep. He might catch a slant and take it all the way. I mean, there are endless opportunities to how this guy can score. Now, there are some cons to him. I mean, I talked about with Rashod Bateman, my number 1 choice earlier in the video, that he's got sure hands. This guy, not so sure. I mean, he's had some drops throughout his college career. He's had, enough drops that people question his hands. And, just something that I'm kind of tired of seeing out of the Titans wide receivers. We've had some sure-handed wide receivers, but we've also had our fair share of wide receivers that have trouble with drops. And so I really don't want to see that coming in from a guy that they're looking to draft, or that they, in my opinion, they should look to draft. But still, I don't think you can overlook his athletic ability. I mean, I hate to say that about a guy that's dropping passes, but I just don't think you can overlook that. He has that explosive ability. So I think if Rondell Moore is available, some of these other guys are off the board, I think he's a guy that you look to go with. But Rashod Bateman in the first round, Elijah Moore second or third, that would be what I would be looking to do if I were the Tennessee Titans. But those are my top 3 guys that I hope the Titans are looking to draft. I hope that they go into draft day with those names in their mind. If they're there, we're going for them. Because those are 3 guys that I really like. I like Rashod Bateman and Elijah Moore, a little more than Rondell Moore, but I still like him too. But any of those 3 guys, I would be happy if they were on the Titans roster going into this next season. And honestly, I'm just ready for the draft, ready to see how these things play out. But we've got several more of these videos before the draft gets here. I mean, we still got to do one of these covering cornerbacks. And then there's no telling what other kinds of draft videos we're going to be doing from now until the draft. So make sure you're subscribed and that you're staying tuned. Turn on the post notifications down there. You're staying tuned for videos in the future. I also do some videos with my brother Tyler on this channel. Make sure you're watching those, checking in on those. He's got some fan interviews that he does. Make sure that you check in on those as well. But make sure you go down, subscribe, turn on the post notifications so that you know when two-tone paths to the draft videos are posted. Also, go down and leave a comment. Tell me who some of your favorite wide receiver prospects are. Make sure that you're checking in with us on social media. The ones that we are the most active on is Twitter, it's Titans_time, and Facebook, Titans Time. We're also on Instagram, Titans Time Podcast, and check out our website, titanstimepodcast.com. This has been Titans Time, and as always, tighten up.